There are men who live alone, not by accident, not by misfortune, but by choice. These are not men who have been rejected by society. They are not men who have failed in love. They are men who have chosen the path of solitude, the road less traveled. And if you look deep into their eyes, past the quiet demeanor, past the stillness of their presence, you will see something rare. You will see clarity. Most people fear solitude. The very idea of being alone terrifies them. They fill their lives with noise, with people, with distractions, anything to escape that quiet moment when they have to sit with themselves. But the man who embraces solitude, he has faced his own shadow. He has sat with himself in the dead of night, stripped of illusion, and found peace in the silence. In a world obsessed with external validation, the man who lives alone walks a different path. He is not seeking approval. He does not measure his worth by how many people love him or how many women chase him. His value is not dictated by the number of texts on his phone, the invitations he receives, or the affection of a partner. Number. His value is forged in the depths of his own mind, in the discipline of his daily habits, in the sovereignty of his own spirit. But what is it about these men that makes them different? Why do they choose this path? Why do they reject the conventional wisdom that a man must be in a relationship, must seek companionship, must constantly chase? Because they understand something that most do not. They understand that solitude is the path to mastery. The greatest thinkers, warriors, and sages of history understood this truth. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, spent hours in deep contemplation, wrestling with the nature of existence. Friedrich Nietzsche, the great philosopher, walked alone in the mountains, his thoughts shaping the very fabric of modern philosophy. Miyamoto Musashi, the legendary samurai, lived in self-imposed isolation, mastering the art of combat, his mind as sharp as his blade. These men did not seek solitude because they were incapable of love. They sought it because they were in pursuit of something greater. They knew that in order to truly know oneself, in order to sharpen one's mind, to strengthen one's soul, solitude was not an option. It was a necessity. A man who chooses to live alone without a girlfriend does not do so because he hates women. He does not do so because he is bitter or broken. He does so because he values his time, his energy, his purpose above all else. He knows that relationships, while beautiful, can also be a distraction. That love, while intoxicating, can also be a form of enslavement if one is not careful. He understands the weight of commitment. He knows that a relationship requires attention, emotion, sacrifice. And unless a woman adds to his mission, unless she fuels his fire rather than extinguishes it, he chooses solitude. This does not mean he rejects love. It does not mean he is incapable of connection. In fact, it is the opposite. The man who has mastered solitude is the man who will love the deepest, for he does not love out of need. He loves out of choice. He does not seek validation from another. He does not fear being alone. And because of this, his love, when given, is pure. Most people enter relationships to escape themselves. They look for someone to complete them, to fix them, to fill the void they refuse to face. But the man who has mastered solitude, he has already faced that void. He has walked through the fire of self-discovery. He has emerged, whole, complete, and entirely at peace. This is the man who does not chase. This is the man who does not beg. This is the man who does not compromise his values for the sake of fleeting companionship. And this is Stoic pathways. The path of solitude is not a path for the weak. It is a path for the chosen, the ones who dare to break free from the illusions of society, the ones who understand that greatness is not found in the crowd, but in the quiet moments of deep reflection. A man who walks alone is a man who does not seek validation. He does not need the noise of the world to remind him of his worth. He is his own judge, his own master, his own kingdom. The masses will never understand this. They believe that happiness comes from external sources, companionship, status, approval. But he knows better. The man who lives alone without a girlfriend is not incomplete. He is whole, because he has found the rarest of treasures, self-mastery, the power of solitude. The world fears the man who does not need it, the man who can sit in an empty room, in total silence, without distraction, and feel at peace, because such a man is dangerous. He cannot be controlled. He cannot be manipulated. He does not need constant entertainment, fleeting romance, or shallow companionship to feel alive. In his solitude, he becomes stronger. His mind sharpens like a blade against the whetstone of introspection. He studies, he trains, he builds. Every day he becomes a better version of himself, not because he seeks to impress, but because it is his nature to evolve. And the world cannot understand this. They mistake solitude for loneliness. They think that because he walks alone, he must suffer. But suffering comes not from solitude, it comes from dependence. The need for external validation, the craving for distraction, the inability to sit with oneself. These are the real chains that bind men. But he is free, the discipline of the solitary man. Without distractions, he builds discipline. He wakes early, not because someone tells him to, but because his mission demands it. He reads, not to show off knowledge, but to sharpen his mind. He trains his body, not for vanity, but because a strong mind must be housed in a strong vessel. He understands what few do. The true battle is always against oneself. It is not against society, not against relationships, not against others. It is against the weaker version of himself that lurks in the shadows, waiting for a moment of weakness. And so, he remains vigilant. He does not fall into the traps of comfort and indulgence. He does not seek distractions to numb his mind. He does not allow himself to become soft. For he knows, weak men are dependent. Strong men are self-reliant. The myths of the modern world society has fed men a lie, that to be fulfilled, one must follow a certain script, get into a relationship, settle down, seek approval from others. They make it seem as if a man without a girlfriend is lost, as if he is missing out on life. But they do not tell the other side of the story. They do not tell you about the man who, in his solitude, built an empire. They do not tell you about the man who, by choosing to walk alone, forged an unbreakable spirit. They do not tell you about the men who, throughout history, rejected the distractions of the world and dedicated themselves to a higher purpose. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, who spent his nights writing the Meditations in solitude. Nietzsche, who walked alone, rejecting the herd mentality, declaring that true greatness belongs to those who dare to stand apart. Miyamoto Musashi, the legendary swordsman, who lived without attachment and perfected his art in isolation. These men did not seek companionship to complete them. They did not fear solitude. They embraced it, knowing it was the crucible in which their greatness would be forged. The choice. Every man must make a man has two choices: to seek comfort in the crowd or to seek power in solitude. The first path is easy. It is the path most take. It is filled with distractions, fleeting pleasures, and a constant need for validation. It is a life of dependence, a life where one is always at the mercy of others. The second path is difficult. It is the path of the Stoic, the warrior, the thinker. It is the path of sacrifice, discipline, and ultimate freedom. It is the path of the man who does not need the world, but whom the world secretly fears. And so, he walks. Through the silence of his own mind, through the fire of discipline, through the trials of self-mastery. He does not look back, nor does he second-guess his decision, because he knows the man who can stand alone is the man who can stand against anything. And that is the truth they will never tell you. This is the untold power of the man who walks alone. This is Stoic Pathways.